Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of my thoughts on all 32 teams start to the 2025-2026 NHL season. Last episode, we covered all the Western Conference teams. Today, we're going to be covering the Eastern Conference teams. Now, if this popped up in your feed and you're watching this right now, there's probably a good chance it's because you watched my Western Conference video. I only made 7 bets in that video, or bets on 7 teams in the West. In the East, however, I made bets on 13 out of the 16 teams. So a lot more juice in on this video. I'd like to say I did pretty well in the Western Conference video. If you haven't watched it, you should go check it out. I posted it a couple days ago. However, the Eastern Conference may be just a tiny bit of a different story. I'm going to use this opportunity to shout out my Instagram one more time. Go follow at Ding Dong Spronger on Instagram for all your NHL content needs. And without further ado, let's start this video off with my 2 heart picks. Now, I placed bets on these 2 teams, not necessarily with my brain, but more with my heart. Simply because I like these teams and cheer for these teams and cheer for them to do good. We're going to start with the first one, and that is the New York Rangers. My bet on them, the line was at 95.5 points. I, of course, bet that over. Right now, they have 34 points and are on pace for 87 points. And if you can see and do math, you will know that that is lower than 95.5 points. Now, is this bet a lock or is it chalked? And honestly, with the New York Rangers, I'm going to say this one is chalked. I don't trust this team. I thought they were going to bounce back this year. I thought JT Miller was a solid captain, and I thought they had the pieces, at least especially defensively and in net, but they are just so inconsistent. We all know their home struggles, but even on the road, the last game I just watched, they got shut out 3-0 by the Chicago Blackhawks in Chicago. So even their road record is starting to diminish. And the thing I can't stand about the New York Rangers is, depending on the day, they either look like the best team in the league and they look unstoppable and they're going to make the playoffs. On other days, and it seems like this has been the more obvious case this year, they look awful. They look like the worst team in the league. They can't score goals. They have no scoring depth. And I just don't trust this team to honestly not only hit this total, but make the playoffs. I thought that the Metro was one of the weaker divisions in the Eastern Conference and even in the entire NHL. I thought the Rangers might have a chance to sneak into that 3rd spot in the Metro. But honestly, at this point in the season, the Metro was godlike, and I think there are multiple better teams in the Metro to slide into that 3rd spot than the New York Rangers. I don't have a lot of confidence in this team. You never know what can happen with Igor Shesterkin stealing you games. Adam Fox is on IR, though. He's injured, and that is just a huge hit. Honestly, recently it seems like Panarin and Zibanejad, guys like Trocheck, their top guys are producing, but like I said, it just hasn't been consistent. And you know, this recent shutout on the road against the Blackhawks really lessened my confidence in the New York Rangers, and that's why I think this bet is chalked. Let me know if you're a Rangers fan, especially. Let me know what you think of this team. But I have a feeling I already know what it's going to be. It's a lot of frustration, but that is the New York Rangers. Now, the other team in the East that I cheer for and bet on this one with my heart was the Ottawa Senators. They currently have 32 points, are on pace for 87, and just like the Rangers with their current point total, their on pace point total, and their bet that I placed is over 95.5. It's crazy how they're on pace for the same amount with the same bet. However, is this one a lock or is it chalked? I'm also going to say chalked, but for this one, I'm going to lean towards a caution because I have more faith in this Ottawa Senators team to reach that total of 95.5 and make the playoffs than I do the New York Rangers, and here's why. I just love Ottawa's game. I think they have scoring depth. I think they have a very good blue line. I know Thomas Chabot is injured right now, and it's honestly starting to show. I think that Senators fans didn't realize his importance until this kind of recent losing streak that they've gone on without him. But their blue line is solid when healthy, and their biggest problem, however, is in net. Now, when you talk about regular season consistency, as long as you have a good tandem, you can kind of get away with some inconsistent goaltending. However, I mean, Olmark and Marilainen have just been absolutely awful, and that has been the team's biggest struggle this year. If they can just find something to turn it around in net, then this team is honestly elite, in my opinion. And I think can even make a playoff run if they can get good goaltending out of what should be an elite Vezina winning level goaltender in Olmark. It's just not happening right now, though. They have Kachuk back. Part of the reason I'm not fully chalking this one is because as Kachuk eases his way back into the lineup, this team's good at home. They're good on the power play. They're good all four forward lines and blue line. This is just a solid team. I have more confidence in this team. I'm half chalking it because they're on pace for 87 and they're on kind of a bit of a losing streak right now. But I still have faith. Losing streaks and winning streaks, they come and go, and that is the Ottawa Senators. Next team we're talking about is the Pittsburgh Penguins. Kind of an interesting one because they've had a start that nobody predicted. Nobody, including me, because I put a pretty large bet on the under 77.5 for the Pittsburgh Penguins. Unfortunately, they currently have 35 points and are on pace for 99. Obviously, is this locker chalked? I don't think there is a bet that is more chalked than this one that I have made in either conference because the Penguins are just them, and I expected them to honestly be the worst team in the league. Like number one, I thought they were going to tank and just be absolutely terrible. I could not have been more wrong. Now, however, going forward, is Pittsburgh going to make the playoffs? I absolutely do not think so. I don't think that this hockey team, this roster, and the wins that they're getting and the way that they're playing is sustainable. I think this team slowly throughout the season will start to come back into mediocrity and show that just the bottom tier team that they really are. However, obviously they're going to reach that point total over 77.5. They've pretty much got the start necessary to do that already. Sid the Kid is him, and he's going to go captain Team Canada, and it's entertaining, and he's even carrying his bottom tier Pittsburgh team to a pretty good spot in the standings right now. But at the end of the day, it's an 82-game season. I don't think Pittsburgh is going to do much going forward, but still an impressive and fun start if you are a Pittsburgh Penguins fan. So I'm happy for you. The next team, kind of similar in terms of my view on them as the Pittsburgh Penguins, but this is the New York Islanders. Now, I thought this was another team because of their draft pick with Matthew Schaefer, because of their luck in the lottery last year. I thought they were just going to absolutely tank and try and kind of repeat that and get another draft pick, try and kind of maybe go into a half rebuilding stage and just go all in on the draft pick part and get it and build around Schaefer and their next draft pick and build a young team. I was wrong. I didn't expect Schaefer to actually play so much in the NHL. I was unfamiliar with his game. In fact, he's probably going to win the Calder Trophy. He's absolutely insane on that blue line and on that power play for the Islanders. And not only that, but this Islanders team is showing grit and they're winning games against good teams too. They're on a little winning streak right now here in the second week of December. And they're honestly very impressive. I thought they were going to be bottom tier. I thought they were going to tank purposefully more than any other team. And I was wrong. Obviously, my bet on them was under 84.5 points. They're on pace for 98. A lot more than that. Is this locker chalked? Folks, it's chalked. We are off to a pretty much 4 for 4 on chalked bets so far in this video. Congrats to Islanders fans. Your team's doing great. Are they going to make the playoffs? I don't think so, but if you're asking me who has a better chance to make the playoffs between the Islanders and the Rangers, I honestly got to hand it to the Islanders. Okay, 4 chalks in a row, but hopefully this video will start to get a little bit more interesting as the next team we're going to talk about here is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yes, that's right. They currently have 32 points. They're on pace for 90, and my bet was actually the under 99.5 points for Toronto. They finished with, I think, like 102 last year and won the division, but with the loss of Mitch Marner, I predicted that this team would take a step back. I also, in my division predictions video, predicted that Toronto would miss the playoffs. Now, I didn't bet on that, but it was still a thought in my mind. I just placed money on the under 99.5, thinking that whether they made or missed the playoffs or not, they could still hit that total. And with their pace being 90 points right now, I think that this bet is looking good. So is it lock or chalked? I do think it is a lock. They're on a bit of a win streak right now. A couple days ago when I wrote this in my notes, their pace was actually a lot worse, but they're starting to win some games and look a little bit better and show some fight. So their pace has gone up a little bit, but it's still not anywhere near that 99.5. And I think that that pace, Actually, now that I think about it, the pace might not flow as much in either direction for the Leafs. I actually think they should get better once their goalies get healthier. Stolars and Wool are both injured right now. If they can get them both back and both healthy, I think both goalies should start to put up much better numbers with more rest. Right now, they got problems in net, problems defensively. And the part of my bet for them under 99.5 is I don't trust the longevity and depth of this offense. So a lot of question marks, a lot of interesting topics with the Toronto Maple Leafs. But at the end of the day, whether they make the playoffs or not, they're on a pretty good streak right now, and it's looking like maybe if you're a Leafs fan, you have some confidence with them making the playoffs. But in terms of reaching that total of 99.5, I do feel pretty comfortable about that. And that is my thoughts on the Toronto Maple Leafs. And following the Leafs right up is another banger of an interesting team to talk about, and that is the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Florida Panthers. Now, I placed the biggest bet ever on Florida under 106.5 points. I obviously came to this decision after the announcements of both Matthew Tkachuk and Alexander Barkov's absences, and guess what? It's not looking too shabby because they currently have 32 points on pace for 90, exact same record, exact same points as the Toronto Maple Leafs. However, their point total is a lot higher at 106.5. So is this bet lock or chalked? Ding, 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 absolute lock. I'm in love with this one. Things are starting to look better here in the Eastern Conference video. I also sprinkled when it was plus 700 for Florida to miss the playoffs. Now, I'm not going to lock or chalk that one just because the odds at plus 700 are crazy enough. I mean, it's looking good, but there's no way I'm ever going to say that Florida missing the playoffs right now is at lock. So, I mean, it's hopeful, it's looking good. But, I mean, the Florida Panthers, without Barkov and Kachuk, are just a completely different team. I mean, they still have the same style. It's just the execution isn't there as much as it is with those guys, especially Barkov. And with Barkov being out for the entire season, I know Kachuk comes back soon, but Barkov being out for the entire season just gives me that much more confidence in these bets. Will they make the playoffs? The East is very competitive, and it's going to be tough for them to squeak in. But once Matthew Tkachuk comes back, it's hard to count out this style of play, this coaching, the culture around Florida to miss the playoffs. And so I think they probably get in. I expect some teams that have gotten off to hot starts in the East, I expect them to cool down and maybe make some room for an absolutely dominant team like the Florida Panthers. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Who has a better chance to make the playoffs? Do you think it's Florida or do you think it's Toronto? One of my hot take predictions at the beginning of the year on my Instagram channel was that at least one of them would miss the playoffs and maybe even both. At this point, if I had to choose which one would miss it, I'd honestly probably go with Florida. I once Stolars and Woll come back for Toronto, I just trust that game more consistently than I do with the injuries piling up for Florida, and so I honestly think I'd take Toronto to make the playoffs over Florida right now. But anyway, those are my thoughts on those two teams. Next up, we're going to talk about another dominant team, this one in the Metro. We're talking about the Carolina Hurricanes. Right now, they have 38 points. They're on pace for 107, and my bet was for the Carolina Hurricanes to simply win the Metropolitan Division. Now, they currently sit in second, but they're half a game behind Washington. And do I think this is lock or chalked? Honestly, this might surprise you or maybe not surprise you, but I think it's a lock. Now, Washington Capitals, I have definitely slept on them. Everyone thought they were fluky last year and were due for some regression. I being one of those people. However, do I trust them to win the Metro again back to back? The Capitals, that is. I don't. I trust Carolina's game, their longevity more in the long term in the 82 game season. And they just look good. They look solid. They look like the Carolina Hurricanes of old. And the only team I thought that was going to be in their way was the New Jersey Devils. But since Jack Hughes' injury, I mean, obviously we'll talk about them pretty soon. But I just don't see anyone stepping in Carolina's way to win this division. So I do think they should be number one in the division, and that is a lock. However, always the big question with the Carolina Hurricanes is whether they're going to be able to replicate this play in the playoffs with their special teams and with their goaltending. They're currently running a a 3 goalie rotation in net, and it looks like Brandon Bussey is like their number one option. He's on like a 9-game win streak right now. He's going absolutely off. Is he going to be your goalie in the playoffs? Probably not. So honestly, I wouldn't pick them to win the Stanley Cup. I wouldn't pick them to even get out of the Eastern Conference this year. However, I do think that they have a good chance to not only win the Metro, but just be number one in the East. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. I don't trust Carolina in the playoffs, but in terms of the regular season right now, my bet for them to win the Metro looks good. And honestly, they just look like a solid team that should take it all the way into the playoffs. And that is your Carolina Hurricanes. So as I'm recording this video, Carolina just beat the Capitals in shootouts, which propels them to first in the Metro. They both have 40 points now, but Carolina has a game in hand. So they're already now in first place in the Metro division. And let me tell you, I just watched that overtime and that shootout. Brandon Bussey kind of looks like him. Like, he played outstanding in the overtime. He saved multiple breakaway goals. He's very calm and patient, and he plays with the paddle very well. He uses it very efficiently. And in the shootouts, no one scored on him. And he just tracked and read the player so well. So honestly, very impressive. I mean, I don't know how experienced he is in the playoffs, if at all, and so can he replicate that in the playoffs? It's going to be a big question. But there's some more information on your Carolina Hurricanes. And while we're talking about it, we might as well cover the Washington Capitals, currently at 40 points, on pace for 107 points. Kind of a whopping number right there. My bet, I kind of spoiled it maybe a little bit earlier because I expected a lot of regression out of this team. My bet was actually under 96.5. I thought some of the other teams that we'll talk about in a bit in the Metro, I just liked them better than the roster that Washington was putting out. And Washington has gone on a losing streak. They've gone on winning streaks now, though. They look actually pretty dominant right now. But I mean, it's honestly just so impressive how good this team is, and how good Logan Thompson is, especially. I think he might be the best player on this team. He's just a dominant goalie. He should absolutely be the starting goalie for Team Canada. And I mean, you can argue me if you want. It just doesn't make sense if he's not. Binnington, Montembeault, Aiden Hill, get him out of here. Make room for Logan Thompson. He's one of the best goalies in the league right now, let alone in the entire country of Canada. And so the Capitals are impressive. Even Ovi is still finding ways to score goals. I'm really impressed with Tom Wilson and his game. He's scoring goals. John Carlson has been pretty good too. But honestly, I'd say behind Logan Thompson, the most impressive player on this team has been Jacob Chikrin. He is scoring goals from that blue line. He's toe drag releasing. He's looking silky. He looks confident out there, and he's having one hell of a season. And so the Washington Capitals, although in my opinion are one of the most boring teams to watch in the league, I got to give credit where credit is due. I was expecting this team to definitely regress and miss the playoffs this year. Obviously, I'd say that under 96.5 is chalked at this point since they're on pace for 107. But at the end of the day, this team is pretty likely to make the playoffs. In fact, if they continue with this trend and New Jersey continues with theirs, they probably get the number 2 seed and get home ice advantage once again in the playoffs. So the Washington Capitals, as much as I hate to admit it, quite impressive. And we'll probably see them come playoff time. The next team has found their way to get mentioned a couple times already in this video, and that is the New Jersey Devils. An interesting team to talk about, but maybe not really, because it seems to be the same story with them every single year. A dominant team with an elite roster that should be top tier, maybe even number 1 in their division, but injuries just plague them. What the hell is happening off the ice with Jack Hughes? Cutting his meat and cutting his hand with a knife. Boom, surgery, out for 2 months. And what has this team done without him? Absolutely nothing. Wow, I didn't know that this team needed Jack Hughes that much, because they have literally nosedived. In fact, as I'm recording this video, they just got absolutely pummeled by the Tampa Bay Lightning, 8-4 on home ice. I can't believe where this team is going, and it's honestly very sad. Another thing to talk about, you talk about Jack Hughes all day. I mean, he's the face of this team, but honestly, I have been very underwhelmed with the play of Jacob Markstrom. I expected a lot more out of him. In fact, in this game today against Tampa Bay, he got pulled in the first period, in the first 6 minutes of the game, after letting in 3 goals on 5 shots. You expect more out of a goalie like that they paid a lot for in a big trade. And so, I mean, Jake Allen's a formidable backup, but if you want the Devils to compete in the playoffs and win the division, you need more out of Markstrom, and it's been kind of disappointing. But even other than that, this team has been struggling to score goals as well. Part of that problem is Jack Hughes. In fact, when Jack Hughes comes back, expect this team to turn it around and make the playoffs, probably as that 3 seed in the Metro. We'll just have to see about those New Jersey Devils, though. Right now, they have 35 points. They're on pace for just 93. My bet on them was over 99.5. Now, before, I'd probably say this was a lock, but I'm now going to lean towards a caution lock here. I think when Jack Hughes does come back, this team should turn it around. I also just trust Sheldon Keefe behind the bench to put this team into the playoffs and get at least 100 points. But right now, only on pace for 93, and it's probably only going to get worse as Jack Hughes continues to be off the ice. But we'll just have to see about that. That's an interesting team to keep an eye on, especially when Hughes is back. Oh, and also especially if they get the other Hughes brother over there from Vancouver. If a trade suddenly happens before the deadline and they get Quinn Hughes, watch out, NHL, because the New Jersey Devils are going to be dangerous. All right, another team I'm excited to talk about next here is the Tampa Bay Lightning. Now, they currently sit at number 1 in the Atlantic Division. They have 38 points and are on pace for just 101. You usually wouldn't think that that's a division-winning number, but with the Atlantic Division, how close it is, how tight, how competitive it is, pretty much all teams are pretty close within each other, but they sit at number 1. And what was my bet? Just that exactly. Tampa Bay was my pick to win the Atlantic Division. Is this a lock or chalked? Even though it's close, I'm telling y'all it's a lock. And this is one I'm actually kind of proud of. It was plus 300. It was the worst odds, I guess, or best odds, however you put it, that I placed on a division winner. And it looks pretty good because who's knocking on the doorstep to win this division? You're talking about Detroit, the Red Wings? Okay, we'll talk about them in a bit. The Boston Bruins are in third. We'll talk about them in a bit too. And then the Montreal Canadiens are sliding. We'll talk about them in a bit too. Toronto, Florida, Ottawa, they're all down at the bottom. I mean, Tampa Bay off to a rough start this year. We're like dead last in the East. Everyone thought they were old. They looked tired. Vasilevsky is playing terrible. And this bet honestly looks chalked. But then they just go on a tear. The offense picks it up, and this is all with the huge injuries in their lineup. Braden Point was hurt for a bit. Victor Hedman's on LTIR now. McDonough, Cirelli, all injured. In fact, even Vasilevsky right now hasn't played in like 2 weeks, and they're still just absolutely finding ways to win games. And it's honestly absurd. I don't see any team in the Atlantic getting in Tampa's way. Especially with the longevity, I've brought it up multiple times, of an 82-game season. I trust this offense, and I trust this team during the regular season. I trust John Cooper behind the bench for Tampa Bay to win the Atlantic, and won't you look at that? Both my division prediction winners looking pretty good here in the Eastern Conference. Kucherov is having another, and he was even injured for a little bit too, but he's having he's starting to pick it up, having a crazy good year. He just had 4 assists tonight against the New Jersey Devils. And when it comes to playoffs, if they don't play Florida in the first round, this team actually could be interesting. They could be different. They've been first round exits for the last few years now. But I mean, we'll see. Are they past their prime? Are they no longer built for the playoffs? Or is it just because they've been playing Florida every year for the last 3 years or 2 years, whatever it's been, and that's why they haven't performed in the playoffs? It'll be very interesting to see. Yeah. Let me know what you guys think of the Tampa Bay Lightning. In terms of my bet, though, I do think that they are a lock to win the Atlantic Division. Next up, we might as well go to that number 2 team I just mentioned in the Atlantic Division, and that is the Detroit Red Wings. Now, they're currently losing to Edmonton, and Boston's beating Winnipeg. So Detroit might actually go down to 3 and Boston up to 2 in this division. But we'll just have to wait and see after this video if that happens. Detroit had a very good start. In fact, they were even leading this division for a little bit. Then they go on their classic win streak, and everyone goes, okay, yep, this is Detroit every year. They start off hot and everyone thinks they're back, but then they just absolutely can't hold on to those leads. and they fall back into mediocrity and miss the playoffs. Every single year, it's happened the last few years. But they're currently on a West Coast road trip. They've won 3 in a row. Their offense is scoring goals. They just shut out the Canucks. Now, okay, that's the Canucks. Calm down. But, I mean, if they can get some consistency in net, and maybe it's not even the goalie's fault. However, it is worth mentioning that both goalies, John Gibson and Cam Talbot, are under like 880 save percentages. They've been awful. Even their goals saved above expected are not good. So you maybe want to blame the blue line a little bit or the goalies, whatever it is, they got to figure out how to get the puck, keep the puck out of the net. Their offense is fine. Their power play is elite. They have depth. They have good young guys too. But if they can just get some good goaltending or fix those holes in the blue line and fix their defense, then this team has a chance to make the playoffs. Now, right now, they sit with 37 points on pace for 98. My bet on them, and I actually doubled down on it right before the season started, literally like the day before, was the Red Wings get over 84.5 points. I think this is absolutely a lock. I think 84.5 was too low for this team. I think they had around 85 or 86 last year, and I was talking about it in my division prediction videos that I think the addition of John Gibson only made this team better. And so to think that they would get worse this year, I thought was a little ridiculous. So I bet the over at 84.5, and it looks like it's looking pretty good. I'd say it's a lock. And so I'd love to see Detroit in the playoffs. I think it'd be fun, but honestly, with how close the East is and how close the Atlantic is, even though they sit in second/third right now, I think it's more likely that teams like maybe Toronto and Florida and Ottawa make a comeback and do better throughout the whole season as opposed to Detroit. And Detroit probably misses the playoffs, but I'll be cheering for them to make it. Let me know what you guys think of Detroit, but that is your Red Wings. All right, this video is getting long. We only have 5 teams left, so I'm going to try and maybe rush through these a little bit so that this video doesn't become an hour long. We're going to start with the Columbus Blue Jackets currently with 32 points. They're on pace for 85, and funny enough, my bet on them was over 84.5 points. Now, the pace would suggest that they would hit that total. And honestly, I think Columbus is better than what they've been playing, at least as of recent. They're on a pretty bad stretch right now, but honestly, I think I trust Columbus to pick it up or at least give it one last push towards the end of the season. Their forward depth is crazy. I really do believe that they have 4 lines that can produce out there. They've battled some injuries. They also have Zach Werenski, who's having a crazy year. He's been going off. Fantilli has picked it up too. Mers Lincolns, he had a good start to the year, but I think he started to cool down. And I was watching the game tonight. He got pulled, and the Columbus fans were cheering. I didn't like that very much. I don't think you should cheer when your goalie gets pulled. I know Jet Greaves is the fan favorite there, and maybe Merce Lincolns has underperformed there, but even when Grubauer gets pulled in Seattle, I don't know if I cheer. So that was kind of crazy. I like Elvis Merce Lincolns. I think he's a little bit underrated. But anyway, is this lock or chalked? This is as caution as you get. This could go pretty much either way. It's a coin flip as to whether Columbus hits this total of 84.5. I have faith, but not too much, and so I'd say caution on this one. The Montreal Canadiens are always a fun team to talk about. Seems like their fans like to yell at me in the comment sections more than any other team. Maybe the Canucks are up there, but the Habs currently have 35 points. They're on pace for 96. My bet was simply to make the playoffs. Now, their line for points was at 93.5, and they're on pace for 96, so they're doing a little bit better than what the books predicted. My bet was just for them to make the playoffs. Is this a lock or chalked? I'm going to say another caution, but honestly, Habs fans, get ready. I'm going to lean towards a lock. I trust this team. I trust this roster. I think they're better than what they were last year, and they found a way to sneak into the playoffs last year. Now, given I think the East is more competitive this year, it's going to be harder for them to get past some of those more competitive teams this year, but I honestly trust Montreal. They just need some goaltending, honestly, and their offense has been inconsistent at times, but I trust the forwards enough to find some consistency throughout the season. Their blue line has been good enough, I want to say, but Montembeault has struggled. The Dobish guy, the rookie, the new guy, young guy, he started off with a crazy start, it's like 7-0, but he had like lost all his confidence recently and hasn't been playing well. They brought up some new guy who played well today and beat Pittsburgh. at the end of the day, their goalie room is a giant question mark. And so whether that's enough to make the playoffs, we'll just have to wait and see. But like I said, I trust this roster. I think they can do it. And the Montreal Canadiens are definitely interesting. What will be definitely extra interesting is if they go find a center at the deadline. I'm looking at Jared McCann from my Seattle Kraken. He's a winger on Seattle because we have 1 billion centers, but he used to be a center, and I think he could be a good fit. Great two-way, great goal scorer for Montreal on that second line. And I think if they get someone like that, then they should be a lock for the playoffs. But anyway, that is your Montreal Canadiens. The Buffalo Sabres. Should I even talk about this team? I literally said it in the division predictions. I talked about them for 10 seconds and said, I'd rather spend more time talking about other teams. It's the Buffalo Sabres. I'll say real quick, they got 28 points right now. They're on pace for 77. The next last three teams, by the way, we've gotten to the zone of I did not bet on this team. I didn't place a bet over or under. However, my prediction for the Sabres was to get 82 points. They're on pace for 77. They are battling injuries right now. They're not making the playoffs. They're not going anywhere. Let's just talk about someone else. And we got 2 teams left. We'll go with the Boston Bruins next. They have 36 points on pace for 95. Okay, my prediction was that they were going to get 75 points. Their books total was at 80.5. And the reason I didn't place an under on that was because Swayman, I expected a bounce back year for him. Charlie McAvoy was back and healthy. Yeah, I mean, the Boston Bruins just had a rough year last year, battled injuries, battled other things, trades, and they had a fresh start this year and actually have gotten off to a great start, and they've continued that great start. They're sitting at second/third in the Atlantic in a playoff spot, and although we all have expected some regression from them, they've stuck around. And Morgan Geekie is absolutely amazing on my fantasy team. He led the league in scoring at one point, and so Boston's definitely an interesting team to keep an eye on. I think they're starting Korpisalo more than they should. It honestly scratches my head and makes me wonder if they're doing too good when they should be tanking, and management's throwing Korpisalo in there. Because Swayman's having a great year. So is Parsonok, so is Geekie. Elias Lindholm is great too, and I think this team could. Nah, they're not making the playoffs. Their forward depth is terrible. I'll take Boston to miss the playoffs. They should regress. But honestly, I am impressed with how good they've been to start the season. And yeah, those are your Boston Bruins. Last but not least, last team, I'll just get it over with here. We got the Philadelphia Flyers. Honestly, a fun team to talk about. They got 35 points right now. On pace, you're not going to believe this. They're on pace for 103 points. They sit in a wild card spot right now. I would like to credit Rick Tocchet. I think he's a good coach. I think Vancouver made a mistake letting him go. And also, I think the move to get Zegras was genius. I think that change of scenery, change of pace for him has worked out immensely for the Philadelphia Flyers and for him. Zegras is fun to watch. The Flyers are fun to watch. However, here's what I'll say about this. Kind of like the Boston Bruins, I don't expect Philly to make the playoffs. I think they have a little coach buff right now with Rick Tocchet. And also, I think they have some overperformers in net. I think Dan Vladar is overachieving right now. He's playing better than he probably should be, or better than he probably is. I expect regression from him. I don't think Samuel Ersson is good at all. And I said it in my prediction video. I think that this is the worst goalie tandem in the league. Whether that's still true, probably not. But at the end of the day, it's still a pretty bottom tier goalie tandem. I expect the Flyers to definitely regress and miss the playoffs. But you never know. Final thought on the Flyers is that they've just been fun to watch. I've enjoyed watching them. They play especially well at home, which is always good for the fans. Probably missed the playoffs, but the Flyers are pretty cool this year. And that's it for them. And that's it for the video. That is all the teams in the Eastern Conference reviewed, my thoughts on them, my bets that I placed on them, reviewed, and how they're doing so far. If you haven't checked out the same video but for the Western Conference, I highly suggest you do so. Some interesting conversations to be had over there. My bets definitely are doing better in the Western Conference than they are in the East, but the fact that Florida might miss the playoffs, that is a pretty good one for me. and the division winners obviously are looking pretty good as well. But if you made it to the end of the video, you're awesome. As always, thank you for sticking around. I appreciate it. Once again, go check out that Instagram, Ding Dong Sprung. I'm much more active on there. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content. And yeah, well, I'll talk to you. Peace.